Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on a reel in the bag project, or more importantly, more explicitly, a reel in the box project. This is a Penn Slammer III 4500. It belongs to Sylvester. Sylvester told me he took it apart and couldn't get it back together again. Could I help him? And I'll try to do that, but I am nervous, and I don't get nervous frequently. But this is how it was shipped. It's shipped with a bunch of pieces in the box, and well, screws and springs and things like that tend to disappear, and I'm only crossing my fingers here hoping that it is all here. Well, we're going to start on this, and hopefully we'll get the majority of it back together again, and hopefully all the pieces and parts are here. If they're not, well, we're going to use this as an exercise in terms of what can go wrong when you're servicing a reel. And we can hope that, well, the parts are available if needed. So we can see what we got here. Oops, there's a screw in that one. That's why I get nervous. They tend to shoot around a little bit here. So first lesson to be learned is, if you do this kind of thing, please take care of the pieces and the parts. Here we have a pinion gear, and the rotor nut, we have the shim washers for the axle shaft, and what I'm concerned about right now is the screws that belong to the tie-down cap for the piece. Now if I lift the flap, I got a bunch of screws in there. Hopefully I have enough. Well, if you like these kinds of things, if you like to see videos on servicing fishing reels, in some cases putting some fishing reels back together again, if you like to learn about how fishing reels are made, how to service them, and how to keep them going, well, this is a good channel for you, and I would recommend that you subscribe. Not all of these are quote-unquote basket cases or reels in the box cases. Most of the time I'm just trying to do the ordinary, which is to show folks how to service the reel. But sometimes we got to do the extraordinary, and that's kind of what we've been asked to do here. Well, here's what I'm going to do. It looks like I've got enough of this that I can get started with, and if I find a piece or a part missing, we'll make sure to come back and order that piece, and we'll let you know how the outcome of it is. Right now it looks like the internal side for the most part should be serviceable, and well, we'll just play it by ear from there. But again, I appreciate your subscriptions. We're almost at 25,000 from a channel standpoint. I appreciate each and everyone's sub, and I thank you all for that. You're what makes this channel work, and makes my work enjoyable. All right, I've just removed the screw from the crosswind block. I'm going to remove the axle shaft now. At least I'm hopeful to remove the axle shaft now. There we go. And it looks like this one's a black shaft, which for the moment I was confusing with just one grease. I'm going to take the main gear out after you remove that axle shaft. And this will just give you a look behind the scenes at this reel. This reel has a crosswind block that runs on a sidebar. This is your oscillation gear. And we can remove that just to check. There's no sense just kind of putting the reel back together again. You might as well take the pieces and parts out and make sure that everything's good. So there's one more piece remaining. That's the oscillation gear. Let's go ahead and take that out. Well, if you have any questions on this or any of fishing reel, doesn't have to be this reel at all. Doesn't even have to be a spinning reel or a late model reel. Maybe you want to know the history of a reel. Maybe you got a reel that belonged to your dad, a relative. Maybe you bought it as a kid and you'd like to know more about it. Whatever. Just leave those questions in the comment section. I do try to answer them. All right. I'm going to use fishing reel grease now. I'm going to use Penn fishing reel grease. And not because it's a Penn reel, but because it's fishing reel grease. I put a little bit on the back of this crosswind block, You want to inspect the pieces. In this case, you want to make sure all the teeth are uniform and clean, and get it on all the sides of it. Once you do that, you can reseat that crosswind block, and when you reseat the crosswind block, put the stud on that block in the down position. I have the screw for the crosswind block, so we'll put that back in, and then we can line up. I'm going to put the screw for the crosswind block in there, in my parts tray. I take all of my pieces and parts and put them in a parts tray. I don't have a system, first in, first out kind of system. A lot of folks like to use something like that. I don't use that. Rather, I use what I'll call my mass chaos kind of organization. On the main gear, I'm doing the same thing right now. I'm checking all the teeth, and I'm putting a healthy dose of grease onto there. Then I'm going to I'm going to leave that out because we have that whole pinion gear assembly is not installed. Well, you can try and do this by feel, but why? There's a schematic available on the internet. If you go out there, this one's from mysticparts.com. It'll show you the entire layout of that pinion gear piece. Okay, well, I pulled out the parts that look like they belong to this assembly. I'm going to start with the pinion gear. Make sure that it's clean. I'm going to get a little bit of grease throughout the thread cycle there. Now we're going to pick up there's a shim washer that goes next. Then there's a smaller bearing. Then we have the anti-reverse assembly. We have a collar. And then we have a two-sided bearing. One is plastic, the other is metal capped. The metal cap normally faces outwards, and you can test that. If your rotor is moving in a clockwise manner and you try to back it up, it grabs. If you turn that upside down, it would be reversed, and well, it wouldn't work. All right, next thing up then would be this cap in the bearing. And now we should be able to take this entire assembly and place it into your carrier, your body, and it should be flush, just like that. Next piece is actually three pieces. There's a rubber O-ring seal, there's a metal tie-down clamp, and there is a plastic clamp with these little feelers that go on the outside. So just turn that over, line it up. Make sure that those little feelers are on the right side. And now comes part one. Do we have the screws for this? There should be three tie-down screws here. I see three. We're going to guess that this is the right three. We're going to hope that it's the right three, because if it's not the right three, we're going to have to go back and order. I'm not sure that's it. Let's take a test here. Yeah, that should be it. So much of this is kind of guessing because I didn't take the reel apart. And when you don't take the reel apart, you kind of lose a little bit of the control of what exactly is it. Once you've installed the carrier and that O-ring, go ahead and take the top now and set that to align with the three screw holes. Now I did go in and find the three screws. They're flathead screws with kind of a long shaft. That'll be what goes into the corresponding holes in the case in order to tie these down. You gotta be careful, there's an awful lot of screws laying around here. Just make sure you have the right ones. And that's kind of a little bit hard to tell. But that's what schematics help with. I'll put that third one in now. The axle shaft in. Oh, need the main gear. Take the main gear that we've greased up, put the main gear in. Looks like that waterproofing gasket got trapped there, so let's get that back where that belongs. There's a little ridge that this gasket rides in. Little inset. Before we go ahead and install the main gear, let's make sure we put the guide bar back in for your cross wind, and get that cross wind situated over the stud and tuck the lip under the guide bar on the other side. So that's how it should install. The little guide tag goes under there, the post goes in here. Now we can put the main gear on. Now we can bring that axle shaft down. Center it so that you have your hole for the screw lined up. And then let's go find that little screw again. Took that out earlier, and that really is a small screw. So I'm going to use my micro driver to try and get that in. And then we can tighten that down. And that completes the gear side setup. These are sealed bearings. If they weren't sealed bearings, you could put some greases and oils on there. Let's just make sure that the case seals nice and tight. And let's go get the 3 side plate screws for the case. And I'm seeing 1. So we got 2 things we got to order so far. We got to order a little ferrule, and now I think we got to order 2 screws for the side plate. There's another screw over here that may be a side plate screw. So we got to order 1 side plate screw. Not sure why we have all that tape on the handle here. We're gonna think maybe that's the way it's supposed to go. Now we can bring our rotor in. We want to set the rotor on. And we have the rotor nut, and we have the waterproof. And I think I just, before I put the rotor on, there's these 2 washers here. So we want to get those washers back on here. One is the bearing washer. You can see there's a little bit of play in that axle shaft. The ferrule will take care of that. Let's get this over. Okay, now we can put the rotor on. And now your rotor nut has this little waterproof on it. So take your waterproof O-ring and put that in that indentation there. Rotor nut goes on. I like these rotor nuts because you can't over tighten them. They max out on top. Now we can tighten that down. Got to find the right wrench to do that. There we go. Now we have the clamp that holds all of that down, but I believe we have a little rubber washer that goes in between the clamp. That would be this one, another seal. Now we have this 3-star that's going to hold it all in. Now we should have 3 flat head screws to hold that down. And this is what I'm going to have to come back and do. I'm going to have to remove these in order to put that little axle shaft ferrule. I'm going to confirm that it belongs there. I'm almost certain that it does. Once I confirm that, I'll come back and redo all of this, but for the purposes of you viewing this and seeing how it comes together, and just making sure this is the only issue we have, we're just going to let it be at the moment. So this right now, we're down a screw and that axle shaft ferrule. Maybe not. We may not need that because this rubber washer here may be acting as that. That's probably exactly what's going on. I'll check. But that would serve the same purpose of holding that axle shaft from wobbling. Okay, click ratchet goes up next. There's 2 little washers. I gotta make sure I have the orientation right on that click ratchet. Doesn't look like I do. It looks like it goes the other way. Metal washer, click ratchet, spool shims, spool, spool nut, handle. Still missing a screw. Non-handle side cover. And let's see if it's working again. Well, there you go. It's working fine. So that little rubber piece appears to be the piece that I was thinking of as a ferrule. We're driving, we're fishing, we're done. Tighten this up a little bit. Hold it firm. There you go. Penn Slammer III 4500 reel in a box project, reassembled, ready to go fishing again. It's a nice reel. All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Hope lessons learned, right? If you are taking your reel apart, please take care to remember or have a system of organization for what you're going to do with the pieces and parts you remove. Take plenty of pictures, and at the end of the day, you should be able to reassemble based on schematics like this, the pictures you've taken, and your memory of how it came apart to begin with. So I hope you've enjoyed that. To everybody watching, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel. And to all, please stay safe, stay well, have fun on the water, enjoy the fishing, keep your reels tuned up, and have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.